Hi folks, welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. And not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Welcome back. January 6th bombshell. Trump attempted to deploy National Guard but was blocked. They're talking about the so-called insurrection, which was really a riot. I didn't know this until tonight. I watched a lawyer that was on Tim Pool's show. Of the 550-odd people that have been arrested, many of them detained for simply walking through a doorway and looking around. There's actually videos of Capitol Police inside the Capitol taking selfies with the so-called insurrectionists. But here's the weird part. It was a riot. Don't get me wrong. They were asshats. A lot of them acted stupid. Not going to justify any of it. But here's the odd part. Why do they call it the insurrection? Because they tried to overthrow the government. That's why, John. What are you, stupid? Well, here's an interesting point. Of all the people so far arrested, some held for months for simple trespassing, being overcharged dramatically for the so-called crime they committed, guess how many have been charged with insurrection, which is a federal law, and you can go to jail for a long time. Guess how many? The answer is 0. Isn't that interesting? If it was such a huge insurrection and our government teetered on the edge, not one person has been charged. I find that interesting. Let's read on. Surprise, surprise. Another Democrat narrative has just been unraveled. Democrats attempted to blame President Trump for the January 6th insurrection, quotation marks. But more and more evidence continues to point towards Democrats making the January 6th situation worse. Well, what a shocker. We now have proof that President Trump attempted to order the National Guard to the United States Capitol, but President Trump's order was denied by the mayor of D.C. They say, well, it wasn't Nancy Pelosi. Well, believe me, they work in concert. If the mayor of Washington, D.C. turned down the help, I'm sure Nancy Pelosi input was done before that was done. Now let's hear what this gentleman has to say. Kash Patel confirms the Trump administration is trying to deploy the National Guard for January 6th, but were deployed. Now he was in the Department of Defense, former chief of staff to the Secretary of Defense, to be exact. Let's see what this gentleman has to say.
Why on January 6th, when it has now publicly been admitted by the FBI that they had information that there could possibly be a situation like that at the United States Capitol, why weren't the cabinet secretaries under President Trump briefed? Why didn't the FBI put 1,000 uniformed agents around the U.S. Capitol? Where was the fence? Right? These are the lackings that led to January 6th. These are the mistakes, intentional or otherwise, that led to January 6th. And if you look at the video from January 6th, and they still won't release all of it, an entire side of the Capitol, I believe it's the south side, was totally unmanned. No police officers whatsoever. And that's where the crowd first came in through. And you have to ask yourself, what happened on January 6th? Now look, I was chief of staff of the Department of Defense on the 6th. We had offered the Capitol Police and Mayor Bowser of Washington, D.C., thousands of National Guardsmen and women 2 days before January 6th, and they turned us down. So it could have been prevented.
So could it have been just not a lot of information sharing happening?
I think it was not enough information sharing happening, and I think what people now are starting to realize is that the protecting of the U.S. Capitol on a day like January 6th is a law enforcement function. You cannot have the United States military descend and occupy the area around the United States Capitol. It's literally illegal. But they can assist their law enforcement partners through a request from the mayor or the governor or the Capitol Police. And that's what should have happened, and that's what we told them they might want to consider, but they flat out rejected it for political reasons, I believe.
Now, isn't that fascinating? He's got no reason to lie. Absolutely no reason to lie. All the setup. FBI's Ray refused to tell Trump administration there could be a situation. That's by Robert Nurilla. Yeah. Former Chief of Staff, the Secretary of Defense. It's no small job. He wasn't some clerk somewhere. Wasn't the janitor in the DOD. He was former Chief of Staff to Secretary of Defense. Mayor Muriel Bowser turned down thousands of National Guard troops to the Capitol on January 6th for political reasons. And here's really interesting. Trump ordered the National Guard and Capitol Police to have plenty of officers on hand prior to January 6th in case of violence and attacks on the Capitol. Doesn't seem like the actions of a man who was planning an insurrection. Yeah. So I'm going to plan an insurrection. I'm going to get my people to storm the Capitol, take over the government, be a quasi-dictator. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, no, we have a dictator in the freest republic in the world. What are we going to do now? Well, morons, he wouldn't have asked for National Guard troops to mingle in with the Capitol Police and the system in security. Things that make you go, one of two things is happening. Maybe both. Is that they're just incompetent when it comes to security, period. And two is they allowed this to happen for political reasons. Or maybe it's both. Don't ever, when it comes to progressive Democrats, don't ever rule out stupidity. This claim was made by a former Pentagon official prior to the January 6th event. January 6th itself, President Trump was trying to get more security to D.C. for basic crowd control. I've seen estimates there were 500,000 people there. I mean, it must have been a huge windfall for D.C. as far as money goes because of COVID and the lockdowns and everything. All those people in the D.C. area had to stay overnight somewhere. They all had to pay a hotel plus the hotel taxes. They all had to pay for food, transportation. It was a huge economic boom for those 2 or 3 days for the city of D.C. The truth. A former Pentagon official of the Trump administration, Kash Patel, spoke to Jan Kekillik about how the Capitol riot of January 6th could have been prevented. Patel was chief of staff to acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller, said we had to offer the Capitol Police and Mayor Bowser of Washington, D.C., thousands of National Guardsmen and women 2 days, and they turned us down. It's, I guess he has his own show. Why weren't the Capitol secretaries in a President Trump brief? Good damn question. Patel asked on the show Cash's Corner with Epic TV. Why didn't the FBI put 1,000 uniformed agents around, ununiformed agents around the Capitol? Where was the fence? Where are the lackings? These are the lackings that led to January 6th. These are the mistakes, intentional or otherwise. It's unbelievable. The whole entire south side of the Capitol, I believe he's right when he says the south side, had zero protection. There's 500,000 people out there. And if you're the Democrats inside cowering in fear at Trump is bringing insurrectionists to take over the building and take over the government, but ask for help from National Guards people, men and women from all over the country in every state, nope. They were afraid for their lives. But yet the entire south side of the Capitol had zero security. Unbelievable. Patel replied, I think it was not enough information sharing happening, and I think that's what people now are starting to realize, that is that the protecting of the U.S. Capitol on a day like January 6th is a law enforcement function. Yep, you cannot The United States military descend and occupy an area around the Capitol is literally illegal, which they end up doing later as Democrats. No comment. But they can assist their law enforcement partners through a request from the mayor or the governor or the Capitol Police in this case. And it didn't happen. Why? Political reasons. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is currently forming a committee to investigate what led to the Capitol riot. Yeah, no, she didn't say insurrection because it's not an insurrection. It's a few hundred asshats out of 500,000 acting stupid. This after a measure to form a committee in Congress was blocked by Senate Republicans. It was being touted as the 6-month anniversary of the Capitol riot was on July 6th, and leftist news media has had a field day reliving what the president has termed the worst assault on our democracy since the Civil War. Jesus. I got to tell you, the Democrats say don't ever let a crisis go to waste. But, Jesus, they go too far. They go too far. It's like, say you're married or have a boyfriend or girlfriend, and you're 10 minutes or 15 minutes late from picking them up. And every single time you've got to pick them up from then on for the next year. They say to you, well, don't be like you were on January 6th. You're 15 minutes late. Well, the 40th time you say it, your family goes, oh, Jesus, I got it, okay? Shut the F up. Unbelievable. On the 6-month anniversary, Biden re-upped that claim, issuing a statement condemning the disorder of the day. Not even during the Civil War did insurrectionists breach our Capitol and the citadel of our democracy, but 6 months ago, insurrectionists did. Then why weren't any charged? Not one out of over 500. Not one charge of insurrection under federal law. As they're overcharging all the rest for simple trespassing or just being bystanders and tourists, for lack of a better term. They're being charged with years in jail. At least some of them are. Not one was charged with insurrection. This was not dissent. It was disorder. It posed an existential crisis and a test of whether our democracy could survive. A sad reminder there is nothing guaranteed about our democracy. You idiot! Even if, say they stormed the congressional chambers and all the senators and Congress members had to flee and they had control of the Capitol building like they do, like the no-go zones and Chaz and CHOP and all those retards. Nobody does anything about that, but we'll say they did and they have the Capitol building. They're not the government, you idiot. They're not. They just occupy a building. There's been tons of buildings occupied. In fact, if I remember correctly, during the Kavanaugh hearings, the Hart Building, which is the Senate building where the supposedly questioning was done, it wasn't even questioning, it was grandstanding, every single floor and every single office was overrun with protesters. So they took over a Senate building. Are they insurrectionists or are they just stupid ass hats? How come none of them was charged with insurrection? And here's the thing. Why don't Republicans grow a spine? Grow a spine. One thing I'll give the Democrats, they stick together. Boy, and there's power in that. Unbelievable. Prior to January 6th, there were many fears in conservative circles that the crowd may have been infiltrated. It is well known that Antifa has attempted to infiltrate crowds and stir up violence. Yeah, there was some rabble-rousers, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Oh, gosh. Kevin Kozinski, could pronounce that, has ordered an external review of body camera footage from June 30th Board of Trustees meeting. Want to share one of my first stories at the Indy about how the last investigation went, how it seemed to be going against leaked footage. Here we go. After a UNC report absolved the police force of bias, activists, you can tell from the video that the desire to physically and forcibly remove anarchist students from our own campus, and if you want to go to that and check it out. Oh, God. Also, the former FBI director contracted for this report. Chris Swerker was on Laura Ingram's show after the insurrection, after the riot, January 6th, saying that the breach seemed like it could be from Antifa. I'm so sick of going over January 6th over and over, and yes, it's unfortunate that we're singling out the participants and not Antifa or BLM in the rioting all summer. You know, former acting defense secretary Christopher Miller told a House Representative panel that he spoke with Trump on January 3rd, 3 days before the now former president's fiery speech that preceded the violence and led to his second impeachment. According to Miller's testimony, Trump asked during that meeting whether District of Columbia's mayor had requested National Guard troops for January 6th, the day Congress was to ratify Joe Biden's presidential election victory. Trump told Miller to fill the request, the former defense secretary testified. Miller said Trump told him, do whatever is necessary to protect demonstrators that are executing their constitutionally protected rights. They don't have a right to riot. Oh, of course, unless you're BLM or Antifa, unless, of course, the riots that caused disruption among major cities for an entire year, causing billions of dollars, killing dozens and dozens of people, and destroying tens of thousands of lives forever, that's constitutional right. Trump told Miller to fill the request. Miller made remarks during a contentious hearing held by the House Oversight Committee, which is investigating security failures in the days leading to and during the riot. Security failures is a nice way to put it. Representative Carolyn Maloney, the Democrat who chairs the committee, demanded answers from Miller on why National Guard troops did not arrive until hours after the building was overrun. Yeah, no shit. Miller testified that the U.S. military was deliberately restrained that day when Trump's rally turned into assault by hundreds of his followers that left 5 dead, including a Capitol police officer. Now, let's tell the truth here. As far as I know, two people outside the Capitol building, one had a stroke, one had a heart attack, I believe. The unfortunate law enforcement officer, Sicknick, I believe his name was, they put him on display of the rotunda like he was assassinated president. Yeah, I felt bad the guy died. Had a stroke either the day after or 2 days after the riot. Fourth person, I don't recall what happened to that individual, but I know one thing for a fact. The only gunfire that was there was a Trump supporter coming through a window. An Air Force, a veteran, a woman. That's the only fatality. Miller testified he was concerned in the days before the January 6th that sending National Guard troops to Washington would fans fear of a military coup, that Trump advisors were advocating martial law. President Trump has always stood for law and order. The reason Democrats wanted to blame President Trump for January 6th is because they wanted to tarnish his reputation. But the truth always comes out. And this latest round of evidence does not look good for the Democrat Party. Yeah, you're absolutely right, but here's the problem. Here's the problem. There's 40, some say up to 45% of the public won't believe a word of it. Not a word. They won't. You can show them evidence that the world is round, that the earth revolves around the sun. And if it came from somebody they don't like, they say, I don't believe it. And there's your problem. And the other part of it is social media and cable news. Social media will completely black this out. It'll leak out eventually in drips and drabs. And cable news will just poo-poo it. It's amazing to me. People believe what they believe. But those are facts. That's Miller saying it right out loud. That's the chairman. That is the chief of staff of the Secretary of Defense talking. This isn't a janitor somewhere or some low-level clerk. But yet, what you'll get from all the anti-Trump people is this. Trump was in between a rock and a hard place, calling in National Guard troops when the mayor of D.C. said no. why they were outraged. They want to answer why the National Guard troops were brought in 2 days after the insurrection. You idiot. Why don't you ask the mayor of D.C.? It's unbelievable to me. Our democracy was not in peril. We're not a democracy anyway, we're a republic, but our republic was not in peril. There's just several hundred really pissed off people, and many of them acted stupid. I heard one took a dump in Nancy Pelosi's office. That one I can actually applaud. Just for the value of the incident itself speaks volumes. No, I don't advocate violence. They acted stupid, and the fact of the matter is they set back President Trump, his followers, and many Republicans pushed them back because of this stupidity. Even if it was instigated by many in the crowd, we'll say infiltrated by security forces that hated Trump in the United States, they still did it. It was dumb, but it was one incident, one time. And there were tens of thousands of people smashing. They tried to burn down a federal building. They tried to burn it down in Portland, I believe it was, or Seattle, with federal agents inside it and wanted to burn them alive. That's not an insurrection? Jesus. It's incredible to me. But we'll leave you with this. The truth is going to get out eventually, at least the vast majority of it. But the question is, who is going to listen? We'll see. Until the next time, folks, goodbye and good luck.